guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the solved case of a man called Thomas Bragg, murdered by someone very close to him. It's a very sad case, and the reasonings behind it are just stupid. So, well, they all are, obviously, most of the time. But yeah, let's jump right in. Oh, before we do, obviously, people who saw the video about the dog attack will know what all this is. These videos are gonna come out later because obviously I have a backlog of videos, so that was pre this happening. This probably gonna be in about a month's time ish. So yeah, you'll see my scars and stuff and healing, and that's just the reason behind which. Probably you guys already know that, but I just thought, why not? I mention it. And this is why my hair's up as well, so that it doesn't get in the way. Because, yeah. I couldn't have done that on a green screen, because guess what? You can't put your hair up on green screen when you've got no lighting, because you look bald. So, yeah, I could never ever wear my hair up. Not that. I like my hair up and I like it down, so most of the time I probably will still wear it down. Just, however, not like right now. So, yeah. Let's just stop babbling and jump into the case. So, Thomas Bragg actually worked as a long-haul trucker. He also had a twin brother called Tim. He ended up meeting a woman who he then married. They were together for a bit. They ended up having 2 children, I think. Together, but then sadly their marriage did not last. They ended up getting a divorce, and then Tom decided that he was going to move, and he ended up moving to Georgia. And this is where he would meet his second wife, Mary. Now, Mary had previously been married too. She had 3 children with another man, and once more their marriage didn't last either. It didn't last very long at all, so she ended up with 3 kids. She was pretty much doing any old job that she could to try and support her children, and then she met another man. This was before she actually met Tom, and his name was James Wright. And James Wright would really look after, her and her girls, make sure everyone was, financially well off and whatnot. They actually stayed together for 10 years, but then they ended up getting a divorce too. This is when she finally met Tom. He was at a bar, and that's where they met. They were really interested in each other immediately. It didn't take long before they began dating, and then they ended up getting married in August of 2001. Tom decided to give up long-haul trucking, and he wanted to do roofing with his twin brother Tim. He wanted to apparently spend more time at home, which obviously long-haul trucking, you're driving a lot, so he wanted to have a job where he could spend more time with his family. And, that was brilliant at first. But then the next year, in 2002, Tim and Tom were working on this roof of a church, I believe, and it collapsed. It ended up with both the men were, very injured. They ended up breaking their ankles and their legs, both of them. Ended up in hospital. And then, obviously, Tom is with Mary, so he ends up going back home. And at some point, also, so does Tim. So Mary is there caring for both brothers at home. And, they do eventually heal. Tim ends up healing to the point where he moves back out of the house and goes off on his own again. And Tom is getting there. They do really well. The recovery is pretty damn good considering they broke ankles and whatnot. But he still had to, walk with a cane. And obviously, couldn't work for a long time either. But he was getting back to his old self, and of course he wanted to get back to work. That would never happen, sadly, though, because just a few days later, this was the 9th of September 2002, a neighbour would come across a grim discovery. In the house of Tom, they would follow a blood trail inside to a spare bedroom where they would find Tom deceased. Now, the neighbour's reasoning for going around there was that he was coming around to help Tom to get some things done. So obviously, he'd gone around, he sees this blood trail, and he follows it into one of the spare bedrooms and finds a horrific discovery. He was 46 years old, and he'd been beaten in his own home. He was found on the bed with a pillow covering his face. Of course, the police came and they looked into the investigation. They looked into everything. What they found was Mary did have this alibi. She was at a psychiatrist appointment at the time. But there was a problem with that because they eventually found out that Tom was actually killed between 4 and 6 a.m. She was not at that appointment then, and therefore her alibi was like, poof, straight out the window. This is when more stuff began to come out about Mary. She wasn't faithful in their marriage at all. She really despised Tom for, her words, not mine, being like, not a cripple. I can't remember whether them were the words that she used, but say that was like being like a cripple and not being able to work. Obviously, that's a derogatory term. It's something I would not use, but it's like, it's something that Mary used because she despised him at this point. She wanted her man to be out there working and earning money, and because Tom was injured and couldn't, well, he was trying to get back to it, he was. But because she had to look after him and she didn't want to be a nursemaid, she was not happy about the situation. They checked out her clothes and things. They didn't find any of Tom's blood on them. And they re-looked into like her alibi. She actually left the home at 6:30. Which obviously means that she would have been there around the time that Tom was killed. And that was true. She did go and see her psychiatrist, but something that they would later find out too was that she would tell a psychiatrist how upset she was about Tom's murder, but the police hadn't even spoke to her at that point. So how did she know that he'd been murdered yet? Because they hadn't told her. Suspicious. They didn't, even though like these suspicions sort of came a bit later on. They didn't find out this information straight away. Obviously they're looking into the case. They didn't have much information and they're waiting on all of these tests to come back. Autopsy, it takes time. What time, you know, Tom died, it takes time for all of this stuff to happen. So they had no idea at this point that it was Mary. She was like, well, that she was under suspicion because she was just the grieving widow at this point. But anyway, the break actually came before they found out all this information was when one of Mary's friends actually said that Mary had confessed to killing Tom on 2 occasions. And this is when all this stuff began being found out. They also found out that Mary had taken out a life insurance policy on Tom for $25,000. Something he never wanted, he never believed in. He didn't want an insurance policy on his life, so she took it out without him knowing, and it wasn't that long before this occurred, I don't think. Not only that, apparently she tried to do something similar to one of her previous husbands, according to one of the children, I believe. Like she was getting fed up of him and stuff like that, and I don't know. She obviously didn't murder him, but it was something along those lines, like that I read anyway. I can't really remember. Oh, hang on, that was it. She approached like 3 men to take out James, and she would give them a portion of the life insurance. This was the previous husband for Tom. So again, like I said, she's tried this before. Thank goodness she wasn't successful, but maybe this time with Tom she was, sadly. So obviously all this time police are just building up their case against Mary, and it wasn't a quick thing. You know, it did take some time, but eventually she was arrested and charged with Tom's murder. She ended up getting life in prison without the possibility of parole, and of course, you may wonder the motive, but again, there's the comments that she made about not wanting to be a nursemaid and look after somebody who couldn't work. Obviously, money was like a massive thing in her life as well, like a massive factor, because she tried to kill James before for the life insurance money. She got life insurance on Tom. She killed him, you know, so just a very evil woman. And it absolutely breaks my heart that Tom, he probably would have been able to, I don't know how, like, she killed him, but he probably would have been able to fight back a lot better, happened that he wasn't in his diminished state, which is just really heartbreaking as well. He was beaten to death at 46. Horrific. But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Tom Bragg. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.